Brent Brennan and the coaching staff show a nice little form of solidarity on the first day of the transfer portal being open.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. This show is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Check it out, Monopoly Go. All right, now we need to refresh back to where we were when when everything broke that Jedd Fisch was leaving for Washington. Now, Washington on paper is a better job than Arizona. I always need to say this because they have more money. They are going into a bigger name conference, even though I cannot stand Big Ten athletics. I want nothing to do with it, but you get the point. It's a school that has been to multiple college football playoffs in the last, 10 years. They got a national championship in my lifetime, et cetera, et cetera. But you still have to live in smelly, rainy Seattle. No thanks. But either way, I say that because when Jedd Fisch left, it was obviously a punch in the gut, a kick in the nooglers to pretty much everybody here in Tucson. And again, it wasn't how Jedd Fisch left. It wasn't that Jedd Fisch left. It was how Jedd Fisch left. And I think that is something that we always need to bear in mind. But everybody, I think, thought that Arizona was going to lose a good percentage of its roster to Washington because anybody that has been around the program will tell you that Jedd Fisch is definitely, and his staff have definitely been tampering. There's, to put it mildly, Tom Duddleston, the longtime SID, the great Tom Duddleston, put that out there. And somebody like that, somebody of that stature does not put that out there and tag Jedd Fisch in it if he is not very, very comfortable with what he is saying. Then Javier Morales also put out the same thing. I've heard a lot of different things as well. So it's going on, obviously. Now, Jedd Fisch was able to bring some players with him. He was able to get Jonah Coleman, Arizona running back, obviously a very, very good player. He was also able to bring in Ephesians Prysock, also a very, very good player, Isaiah Ward and Russell Davis. But I think people were worried about a full-scale departure of the Titanic proportions, and that did not happen. Listen, let's be honest here, the two most marquee players on the entire team from a name, from a game, from just an everything perspective is Noah Fifita and T-Mac. They are staying. Now, the one thing that is funny about it, I'll always go back to is I don't think Jedd Fisch believes that Noah Fifita is that good. I really don't. Because with Noah Fifita, it took everything possible for Jedd Fisch to finally play him, even though Jayden de Laura was absolutely terrible, running around like a chicken with his head cut off, throwing the ball out of bounds, doing all kinds of stuff. But he wasn't very good. Noah Fifita comes in. Noah Fifita saves the day, saves the biscuit, saves the breakfast. And all you hear from Jedd Fisch is, well, it was really, really good what Noah Fifita was able to do, but we also really have to credit Jayden de Laura during all of this. No, we don't have to credit Jayden de Laura during all of this. We don't have to credit Jayden de Laura at all for any of this. So, and you would just hear that all throughout the year. Or when Noah Fifita was given an award, you would hear about, well, we have two great quarterbacks in the room. Noah Fifita was the man. So, and then T-Mac. Obviously, T-Mac was somebody that Jedd Fisch knew was really, really good, and he said as much. And he said that with T-Mac, he said that he thought T-Mac was the best wide receiver in the country. And I don't know that I put him ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. at that point, but he's really, really good. He is a generational type player, especially at the University of Arizona. We've mentioned this time and time again how rare it is for somebody like Tetaroa McMillan to come to the U of A, to come and back the A. So there is that. And both of these guys, you got to give them a ton of credit. they didn't, they thought about it for a couple days and they didn't really waver. And I thought T-Mac made a really, really good point a while back when he said, when it all went down, I was like, man, I'm staying. And, Noah Fafita said, well, originally when it all happened, the when it all happened, I was like, well, I guess I might follow it to Washington. But then I talked with a bunch of people and we're like, no, we're going to stay this one. Loyalty. Loyalty is a very good underused term in this day and age. But that's really kind of what both these young men showed, is they showed a tremendous amount of loyalty to the University of Arizona. And I've thought for the longest time that these guys are both going to have kind of statues, or I don't know if statues, but they are going to go down in mythical proportions in University of Arizona football history because of what they did. They could have left at any single point and gotten a lot more money in the process, and nobody would have really blamed them because the coach that they came to play here for is gone. They brought in a whole new staff. You didn't really know anything about them. And T-Mac, he's a year away from the NFL. I mean, he's going to be in the NFL in a year. If you're Noah Fafita, you need to look for some kind of stability at some point. But they didn't really waver, and you've got to give them a ton of credit. And Quinn Magnuson, Leif Magnuson's father, said, during all of this, he said, let's be honest here. He said, when this all went down, everybody on the team was kind of waiting to see what T-Mac and Noah were going to do, and everybody was going to kind of go with that, go with the flow from there. And when they didn't really waver, that was something that I think that really, really resonated with a lot. So again, there's a lot of players that we're going to get to here, but those two guys were able to really kind of deal with they were really kind of able to lead they were able to kind of really lead based, and that was something that I think played for hands of a lot of people. Jacob Manu, kind of the same way. That Servite quartet really, really was impressive throughout this. Kean Burnett entered the transfer portal, and then he promptly left the transfer portal. And I think that's something that you've got to, like I said, you've got to give a real lot of credit for. And Jacob Manu became an All-American. It's All-American type player, and Jacob Manu decided that he was going to stay here and back the A as well. So that's Servite, like I said, that's going to go down as a very, very important group in University of Arizona. It's just athletics history. Now, we're going to talk next about the players, some of the under the radar players that stuck around that really could have gone to pretty much anywhere they wanted. And again, we're not out of the woods. There's probably going to be a player that's, a very well-known player that could possibly leave. We're going to talk about him next. But first, Yahoo Finance, ladies and gentlemen. Behind every great investor is Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance, check it out. All right, here's the deal with Yahoo Finance. In that you need kind of a one-stop shop to be able to find something. Go to Yahoo. Again, because with the way that the stock market is, the way the volatility is, you need kind of that one-stop place where you're like, I can just go here, I can get all of my stuff, and I am going to be good to go. Yahoo Finance has it covered. Again, behind every great investor is Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance, check it out. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about some of the players that stuck around that didn't need to stick around, that could have gone anywhere. The first one is we've already talked about the Servite trio or the Servite quartet, and also let's talk about Jacob Manu really quickly. Jacob Manu, another player that could have gone pretty much anywhere. Yes, he's undersized, but he is awesome. Jacob Manu is the man. All right, now, Jonas Savaiinaea. Jonas Savaiinaea could start at Georgia. Jonas Savaiinaea could start at Alabama. Jonas Savaiinaea could start absolutely anywhere. He was somebody that Arizona greatly benefited from with all the COVID, because there was a lot of misevaluations that went on. And Jonas Savaiinaea was kind of in the middle of all of that, because that's not what a five-star or that's not what a 3-star lineman looks like. A 3-star lineman does not look like Jonas Savaiinaea. And I remember when he came in here and Jed Fish just said, the way that he walks around, the way that he looks, everything. That's where, Jonah just looks different, and he does. You don't see guys like him that are 330 pounds that carry weight the way that he does and are able to move around in the manner in which he does. Just a truly unique specimen, for lack of a better term. Just a total monster. And Arizona's going to put him at left tackle. I guess that's where they believe his best NFL career is. But this dude's going to be a first-round pick. He's going to make a lot of money in the NFL, and because physically he can do absolutely everything at a very elite level. From moving out to from a strength perspective, he's next level. He is. Arizona doesn't get a lot of players around here that look like him. Heck, there aren't a lot of players that look like him in all of college football. And Big Jonah is a total difference maker. Again, another dude that could have gone pretty much anywhere he wanted. Now, a guy on the line at Arizona I think could lose, unfortunately, is Wendell Moy. I like Wendell Moy a great deal. I like the story of Wendell Moy. I love how he, kind of stuck with Arizona. Wendell Moy is and he's a good football player. The way that he was kind of able to get into shape, he was, he did a lot of really good stuff. But I get it, he's probably going to go off to Washington. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's certainly what the tea leaves are. That Wendell Moy is going to go off to Washington, and I would imagine he will start on the interior there. Another dude that's probably got NFL potential. That loss would sting. For sure. Now, let's another guy on the line that's so far so good at state is Raymond Polito. Now, I don't think it's really a secret around here that his father wants Polito at Washington. There's been really, no behind the scenes, out front, people know, but Raymond clearly likes being at Arizona, and you've got to give Raymond a ton of credit for what he has been able to do. Now, again, and I'm not going to bash any family members either, because you got to do what you got to do. But there are certainly forces that are pushing them in that direction. But either way, Raymond, I think, has done a really good job, and I got to give his father a lot of credit too, because he's letting his son be his own man, which is very cool. So again, no harm, no foul. But Polito's a lot's going to be expected on him. Now, he's obviously going to be in his second year at the U of A, and I think Arizona fans need to realize that he is he didn't redshirt. He's battled with a lot of injuries. That's kind of been something about him, is that he has definitely been injury prone. And you watch, with players like that, you kind of worry, where exactly are they going to be? Where exactly are they going to be when it comes down to this? And is he always going to be injured? Hopefully not, because he's a big dude, and he's got, like I said, he's another guy. He's got a world of potential. He's got a boatload of potential to him, and he's a pretty good football player. And again, obviously was raised right. Got to give them a lot of credit there. But he's somebody that Arizona's going to need. Arizona's going to need him to stay healthy, and if he can stay healthy, then Arizona's going to be in a good spot. Now moving over to the defensive side, with Tacario Davis. So far, so good with Tacario. Now, again, I don't love that Tacario he was at practice, but he wasn't playing. Not a huge fan of that, but I got to give Tacario all the credit in the world. He stuck around to see what the coaching staff was doing, or he stuck around to see what the coaching staff wanted to do, and he has gone and he has done. He's gone through everything, and Arizona was very, very smart in that they were featuring him prominently on those game day things, and he is just he's an NFL player. You don't get a lot of NFL players here at the U of A. Obviously, dude's 6'3", the way that he can move. He's a difference maker. He's very good, and Washington would like nothing more than to be able to get him. Keep your grubby hands off. But so far, he's done a really nice job of sticking around, or he's done a really nice job here. Now, another player that I think that Washington would love to be able to get is Genesis Smith. Genesis Smith is, we've talked about it a lot, but Genesis Smith was somebody that probably should have been a mid-4-star recruit. He just looks different out there. He is just totally, from a physicality perspective, from an instinct perspective, he's an NFL safety. And Jed, with the way that Jed rolls, Jed would certainly love to get him, as would any other coach in the country. But I love the way that he's handled all of this. And Arizona's got a very, very nice little troika at that safety position with Dalton Johnson, Genesis Smith, and Gunnar Maldonado. Those three are on the back end. Those three are about as good a safety combo as you're going to find in college football. And that is something that, Arizona does not have a ton of. Arizona does not have a ton of in the, historically when it comes down to things. So again, with pretty sure that we're at kind of at the stage right now with Arizona where you got to feel pretty comfortable with where things are at. Now, again, things could move. DJ Warnell obviously entered the transfer portal, and our guy BBN, Big Bill Norton, looks to be moving on. I saw BBN last night talking with Johnny Nansen in front of the Graduate down on University. So BBN is still here, but BBN's a loss. But if Arizona can get the San Jose State defensive tackle, that would be obviously a very nice thing to be able to have. And then DJ Warnell, like I said, entered the transfer portal, but whatever. That's he wasn't going to play a ton. I always thought he probably should have played a little bit more than he did, but not a bad football player. So Brent Brennan, though, and the staff have done so far a pretty good job of being able to keep players on this roster. And that's something to be said for them, I think, because a lot of coaches, when they come in, they lose players. They hemorrhage players almost immediately. Arizona and Brent Brennan have not done that. And they've also shown that they've got an ability to connect with some of these players because, again, a lot of these dudes, and this is something, I hate saying this, but this is something that I got to give Jed Fish. I got to give Jed Fish some credit here because he brought in there's a lot of talent on this roster, and that was something that obviously Jed Fish had. Now, granted, he's trying to poach and tamper with all of it, but there is a lot of talent to be had, and obviously squarely on this roster. So those are some of the key players that Arizona is looking at that really could have gone pretty much anywhere they wanted, and they decided to come back. Now, there are some players, though, there are some positions that Arizona absolutely has to address. And one of those positions is at that cornerback spot, because Arizona lost two players. Well, in Ephesians Prysock, obviously, you know who he is. Probably going to have an NFL future in front of him. He is one of the ones that I do not like because he was trying to sell his jersey on the way out when he already knew that he was leaving, and then he lied about it and said he doesn't get any money out of it. Ephesians Prysock, those are not good. But Shaw is the other one, transfer from Indiana, that it sounds like he's been killing it at camp, and he is going to be I think he's going to be really good. Arizona's got to get some more corners. Assuming you can hold on to Tacario Davis, you got to be able then to get, if you can get somebody like somebody like Shaw in the portal, Arizona's going to have some money. Arizona's going to have some stuff to play with. So that, again, that's a huge position of need for Arizona. I'm okay with G7 as one of the corners, but I don't really want G7 starting a corner. Obviously, Traden Stukes in the nickel is absolutely fantastic. Love Traden Stukes, but they got to get more. They got to get more corners. Safeties, probably pretty good, but they got to get more. They got to get more corners, and they got to get that in this new opening in the transfer portal. We're going to talk about another position of need here in a second, but first, Monopoly Go. All right, now download Monopoly Go free on the App Store at Google and Google Play. Listen. Everybody grew up playing Monopoly with somebody. It is one of those games that is maddeningly fun, whatever. And I always like playing it. I love cheating, playing against my parents, and it always made me feel really good about myself when I did cheat and I won. But everybody's got somebody like that in the family. The Monopoly Go is now it is digital. So again, check this out. Download Monopoly Go free on the App Store and Google Play. It is fun. Bring that childhood, bring that fun, immersive experience all the way back to you with Monopoly Go. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now the defensive line. Now, as Arizona with Isaiah Johnson has really impressed this coaching staff with what he's been able to do at that one of those defensive tackle positions. And he was running with the ones in and out, and he's probably going to get a lot of burn. Obviously, then you got Dotson from Syracuse that'll be, and then on the outside you probably have Trey Smith, and you also have Tai Tagovailoa. That's okay, but you got to get more depth. That's just not deep enough. And if Arizona could get more depth, then obviously they will be in much better shape. But Arizona's just got to get deeper across the board. And like Brent Brennan, they know who's in the portal. They know who's going to be in the portal likely when they do arrive, obviously. And there's going to be money to be had. So again, I always say that fans freak out about somebody entering the portal. I get all of that, but Arizona is also going to be adding players. They're not just going to be losing players. And Arizona has open scholarships. This was something that was very, very smart by Brent Brennan. And it was also incredibly smart by Brent Brennan to be able to do this because you knew that you were going to probably have to add some difference makers. And make no mistake, this team is going to have to add some difference makers to it. And because there are some, obviously, Arizona did lose some dudes to Washington that are good, obviously, and haven't been able to really replicate that yet. But so far, so good. And this coaching staff, the way that they've been able to hold on to so many of these players, this coaching staff clearly shows that they know what they're doing. And so, we'll find out what kind of coaches they are because, honestly, this team should be very good next year. But we are going to find out pretty quickly who is what and what is where because – in college football now, everything's different. We've talked about it. Everything is different. This is not, this is essentially a free agent market all the time. But if you can get everything in here, if you can keep these players through this, then you got to feel pretty comfortable because then when the portal closes, you're getting really kind of right up to the edge of football season. And if you're a player, that starts to impact your ability to be able to play because you're getting in late to a different place, all of that. So this is one of the real barriers here. So this next 13, 14 days is going to be haywire, but we're Arizona fans. This is what we signed up for. This is the life we chose, and we would choose absolutely nothing else. So again, wanted to talk a lot about the portal, the meaning of T-Mac and Noah and their decision to come back and really kind of what this means for this university. And the majority of all these players, with the possible exception of Wendell Moy, look like they are totally in on Arizona. Now, again, could that change tomorrow? Absolutely, that could change tomorrow. That's how these things work. But so far, so good for the University of Arizona. All right, tomorrow we're going to talk more portal, obviously. Probably going to talk a little bit more about practice, who's doing what at certain positions, and we're also going to talk some Arizona football because unlike ASU, we are actually good in both sports. ASU is not good in either, and they will never be good. But that's what we're going to go for. But obviously, if something happens with the portal, fly in my face. If something happens with the portal, we will adjust accordingly and talk to you about that as well. But as always, like I said, this is we're in, day out grind mode. Very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. We have got another show, obviously, tomorrow, and then we will have a great weekend. Try to get out to some spring practices if you can. They're a very, very good time. And we also got the spring game coming up here next Saturday. But I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A. Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day.